Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets powered by FTN right here on Game Plus Network. Also live on our FTN Network YouTube page. Chris Meaney here with you. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic weekend, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out with me here on this Monday. If you are watching live or the replay on our YouTube page, smash that like button. You have any comments, any questions, leave them there. Always circling back on these videos to take care of the people. We are here for you guys. A handful of games on the ice tonight in the NHL. We have some NHL props, some NHL picks. We got a same game parlay. We're going to give a little bit of love to Patrice Bergeron, the Boston Bruins. You got to bear with me here today. I'm not feeling 100%. Voice is a little out there, crackly. It may go in and out throughout the show. When it does, we'll do a bats count. And maybe we can have a fun little drinking game here on a Monday. I'm joking. No drinks. It's way too early for that here on Monday. But we do have a lot to get to here on this show. Massive movement in the NHL over the past 24 hours. Trade deadline is this week. Are there going to be any more players left to be traded? Timo Meier, the biggest name, well, the latest big name, moved. Yesterday, the New Jersey Devils acquired Timo Meier. We're going to get into Timo Meier, Tanner Jeannot. In the next block, we're going to break down those two trades. But the Devils have moved from like 15-1, 17-1 to 10-1 to win the Stanley Cup. Our prop shop, it's showing PointsBet at 10-1, and Caesars still has 15-1 out there. So we're going to go dive into that trade, what it means for the Devils. It's a great get. It's a great get, and it's a very underwhelming return for the San Jose Sharks, in my opinion. We'll dive into that in a little bit. Tanner Jeannot, 5 picks for Tanner Jeannot. What? We'll dive into that as well. Going to take a look at week 20 of the fantasy hockey season. For those that are playing fantasy hockey, it's go time right now. There are 2 weeks, 3 weeks left, depending on your format. You know, some commissioners, maybe they don't want that final week to be the championship week, just like football. Nobody plays week 18. You know, the championship, you shouldn't anyways. But in hockey, and certainly in Yahoo and ESPN, usually that final matchup is a week and a half. So it's not the end of the world. I know the leagues that I run, the final week and a half will be the championship. And so 3 weeks left in my leagues, 2 weeks in other leagues. For head-to-head formats, of course, if you're in a rotisserie league, none of that really matters to you at all. You have about 7 weeks left in the NHL regular season, but we will dive into what Week 20 is all about. There are several teams playing 4 games. There's one team playing 5 games. And something I always talk about, and the article is live over at ftnfantasy.com. Rankings are also updated as well. And I will have a playoff guide this week. I'm hoping to get it out Wednesday morning. A playoff guide. It'll be free over at ftnfantasy.com. It'll just dive into the next few weeks, the teams with the most games, the fewest games. Some, trades are over, like buy low, sell high. I included them in the article in case your league has, trade deadline maybe this week or in another week, like next week potentially. But for the most part, I think across the board, all formats, standard formats, a trade deadline is come and gone. It's passed, but still going to suggest some players to buy low in case, your format is a little bit different in dynasty leagues and things like that. But it's something I like to do to get the best of your opponent. And I think it's definitely beneficial in head-to-head formats, maybe not so much in rotisserie leagues, is Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays are always jam-packed in the NHL. Like this week, there are 10 games tomorrow on Tuesday. There are 10 games on Thursday. There's a double-digit amount of games on Saturday. You're going to be in a tough spot on Tuesday and Thursday. Like there's quote-unquote players, like I don't want to call them scrubs. You hear that term all the time, stars and scrubs. It's kind of a silly term, but it's kind of true when you look into your matchup and you look into on your team and your league. Like there are certain guys that you're not going to play on Tuesday and Thursday. They're just not going to fit into your starting lineup. And if they're just average players, you could just drop them for a player that's playing on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Sunday. So you get the most out of your moves. And also you get maybe 4 or 5 more games than your opponent, as opposed to say you have, oh man, let me give you an example of a player. Like just say you have Teuvo Teravainen, Carolina Hurricanes, and you're not really satisfied with the production that he's given you in your fantasy hockey league. And you see that the Hurricanes play on Tuesday and Thursday and Saturday. He's not going to get into your lineup. He's not a big part of your team moving forward. It's not the end of the world if you drop him. I don't think he's going to be the reason that you lose or win your fantasy hockey league. You drop him for a guy that's playing on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. All of a sudden, you're getting 4 more players. You're getting 4 more starts out of that particular player. So going to address those teams that play on those odd days, the lighter nights in the NHL. And we're going to take a look at ADPs over at NFBC for round 4 and round 5. I have a target for you. I got a couple targets, but there's one target that I really I like a lot going in round 5. He's a top 20 pitcher, and we're going to address that in just a little bit. NHL picks, props. I think we got it all here for you on Mean Streets. No baseball, no NBA, but I did want to address something off the top here just about the baseball. I see a lot of people talking about some of the new rules. There's going to be some kinks for sure. There's just wildness between the Braves and the Red Sox over the weekend as well. And some of the new rules, in particular, the pitch count. So, you're going to have 30 seconds. I think you're going to have, where there's no batters on base, I think you're going to have like 20 seconds to kind of get going. Once that pitch happens, once you throw that pitch, catcher gets it, throw it back, you're going to have 20 seconds to kind of get going. And I think 30 seconds if there's nobody. I may have that mixed up. Yeah, I think if there's runners on base, you're going to have 30 seconds. If there's not, there's going to be 20 seconds. But the batter's going to have to be ready to go, feet in the batter's box, eyes looked in, locked into the pitcher with 8 seconds left. And if you're not, it's going to be an automatic strike. And we saw that Manny Machado was the first one, I believe, on Thursday or Friday. I believe maybe it was Friday. But he was in the box. He was ready to go. But he wasn't looking at the pitcher, and there was an automatic strike. And if the pitcher's not ready to go, it's going to be an automatic ball. So it's going to be some wildness, I think, this year, especially early on in April. There's going to be some craziness. I hope that we're not into the postseason and we're not into the World Series and guys are getting automatic strikes and automatic walks. Like, that's just going to be craziness. I think Quan is maybe helping us. Like a private message. Quan, you're going to clarify with me, right? Look at this guy. He's a goat. It's from ESPN. Pitchers will have 15 seconds to throw a pitch with bases empty and 20 seconds with a runner on. Okay, so I was completely off. Hitters will need to be in the batter's box with 8 seconds left in the pitch count. So that is, I was correct about that part. But you see some craziness over the weekend. Did you guys see it? Right? I like some of the changes, and I don't mind this one. Jeff Passan of ESPN reported after the first 2 spring training games, I believe there were just under 2 hours and 30 minutes. It was pretty quick. And there were 6 pitching changes in each of the 2 games. There was like 15, 16 hits in each of those 2 games. So it's not like it was just a quick game with not a lot of action. And they tried this out in the minors. And Jeff Passan said that it was like 25 minutes fewer, like on average for the games. And I think if you can get them under 3 hours, that's ideal. So I like this quick pace. I think we're going to see more offense this year as well, not just from this rule, but, with the bases changing, the shift as well. I think we will see some more offense, and I don't think this is the end of the world. I mean, nobody wants to sit there through a 3.5 hour baseball game, honestly. So a little bit quicker, but it will make for an interesting season. There's no question about it. They got a couple months to figure this out before you get into the second half of the season and into the postseason. But my biggest fear is a World Series game in the 8th inning with the bases loaded and it's an automatic walk or an automatic strike, and that's the way the game finishes. I just can't. I don't want to see that. You just don't really want to see that at all. It's like the Brett Hall with the foot in the crease. You played it all year long. All year long, they were calling off goals left, right, and center, foot in the crease. Brett Hall and the Dallas Stars score a goal, Stanley Cup clinching win in Buffalo, and Brett Hall's foot was in the crease. The goal shouldn't have counted. It shouldn't have counted, but they threw the rule book out because of the moment. Will that happen? It's possible. We may see, I wouldn't mind seeing the rule be scrapped in the postseason when you get to like the 8th or the 9th inning. Right? You can slow it down a little bit at that point. But I know people are complaining about the 16-inning game in the playoffs with no runs. I'm all about that. I love it. It's exciting, but interesting weekend as preseason now is in full effect. Spring training, that is, in full effect. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in a couple. We're going to break down those 2 massive trades in the NHL. What are the Tampa Bay Lightning doing? 5 picks for Tanner Jeannot? Dude's got like 12 points. We'll talk about it next year on Mean Streets. Keep her locked.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN prop shop always finds the best odds for your player prop. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN data.
Welcome back in. Let's revisit some of those trades that took place yesterday in the NHL. Let's start with Timo Meier to the New Jersey Devils. This is a big get. Timo Meier, among the leaders in the NHL all throughout the entire season in terms of expected goals at 5-5, shot attempts, shots. He's a volume shooter and a really good player. I'd be bummed today if I was a San Jose Sharks fan. I get it. You know, it's kind of like a rebuild mode. This is a team that has been hanging around for years and years and years. They went to the Stanley Cup Finals a few years ago against the Pittsburgh Penguins and lost that. For the most part, they've been a disappointment into the playoffs. And this year, obviously, they're nowhere close to the playoffs and they're rebuilding. You know, Timo Meier is a restricted free agent. He's going to get paid here in the offseason. He's going to get at least $8 million. There's no question. 8 by 8. Maybe San Jose didn't feel like they could make that work. I don't know, man. Like, it's tough. Again, I'd be bummed if I was a Sharks fan. This return does seem, in my opinion, very underwhelming. I mean, the Devils have a ton of prospects, and they didn't really get any of them. Like, Fabian Zetterlund's a nice little player, but, you know, they get the couple first there, potentially. I could read some of these. Just keep this board up for a second, because it does take a lot to kind of roll through what these conditional picks are. So, for example, the first one, the 2023 first rounder, is conditional. If the pick is a top 2 selection, New Jersey will instead transfer their own 2024 first round pick. That's a silly condition. Condition number 2, for the 2024 second round pick. If New Jersey makes the Eastern Conference Finals this year and Timo Meier plays in 50% of the games, or New Jersey makes the 2024 Eastern Conference Final, the pick becomes New Jersey's 2024 first-round pick. If 2024 first is top 10, New Jersey has the option to instead transfer their 2025 pick. Should New Jersey transfer their 2023 first to their 2024 first, as it is top 2 protected, they make the conference finals in 2024. San Jose will receive the 2025 first round picks. So there's a lot to kind of unpack there. Cap Friendly is your friend. Cap Friendly is fantastic on Twitter. They break down all of the trades, and I'm sure you guys are well aware of Cap Friendly. But again, I just feel like this is very underwhelming. Timo Meier is one of the, in my opinion, he's a top 10 player in the NHL. It definitely a top 10 goal scorer. He's a volume shooter. He can put the puck in the net. He's had very good seasons in the NHL. This is a really good get for New Jersey. I think it's fantastic. You know, Jack Hughes has had, in my opinion, again, mediocre wingers. He doesn't always play with Jesper Bratt. Jesper Bratt, I think, is fantastic. And now the Devils have options. They can go the all-Swiss connection there with Nico Hischier and Timo Meier on that top line. They could have Jesper Bratt on that second line, or they can put Bratt with Nico Hischier and then have Timo Meier with Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes has been putting up elite numbers with very mediocre wingers. Eric Haula, like, come on. Eric Haula, Zetterlund's been on the line. Thomas Tatar's been on the line. He hasn't always played his hockey with Jesper Bratt. Last year, more so with Jesper Bratt. This year, Jesper Bratt has played a majority of his 5-on-5 hockey with Nico Hischier. So the Devils just now have two, I think, elite lines. And Hughes, I think, would be a great fit next to Timo Meier. I don't know what they're going to do. Like I said, they may do the Swiss thing with Timo and with Nico Hischier, but the playmaking abilities that Jack Hughes has, and the fact that he was on pace for 100 points before the injury, this seems like a really good duo. The way that Timo Meier can finish and the playmaking ability and the vision that Jack Hughes has, that could be a really nice fit. So great get by the Devils. The Eastern Conference is absolutely loaded. It is loaded. And again, I'd say the top 5 teams in the NHL are all from the East. I would say that it's Boston, Tampa, Toronto, whatever way you want to look at it, Carolina. You got the Rangers and the Devils. You could get the Rangers and the Devils playing in the first round. That should be electric. You got the Lightning and the Leafs playing in the first round. That should be fantastic as well. And, Carolina and Boston, if those two teams win their division and get the wild card, it's going to be a bloodbath the rest of the way for like 5 or 6 teams in the hunt for that wild card, those 2 wild card spots. So those teams that get in will be playing like playoff hockey for the final 6 weeks of the season. So it should be really good. And then the West it's completely wide open. We're starting to see the Avs, hit their stride again, just like last season. Started to get healthy and they're absolutely rolling again. So that was a really interesting trade. It's just good on the Devils because I know that they are going to lock him up. And the fact that San Jose didn't get a lot of the Devils' top prospects and the Devils didn't part with Dawson Mercer, which was a report, or any other young pieces that they have, Holtz and Nemec, like they have so many young pieces. I wondered if they would stay the course. It's something that Eric Young and I talked a lot about on Dangle Betzelli all year. The Devils, you could see the path to them being good and successful with some of the young pieces they have and deep down the middle, with Hughes and Nico Hischier and even Mercer, who can play center, and they got him on the wing, and he's one of the hottest players right now to date in the NHL. You could see the path, but I felt like they were maybe hit their stride a little earlier than expected. So I was wondering, will they go kind of all in to grab a piece like this? And I just don't view Meier as a rental. He's an RFA. He's restricted. I'd imagine they sign him. If they don't, then it's a trade. They trade his rights, but I would imagine they're signing him. You don't make that move unless you have an idea to sign him. That's why I don't get the return for San Jose. It's like, it's not that this guy is just a rental. I would have expected a little bit more from Mike Greer, who's been a GM for like a minute. I don't know if that's a big win. I wouldn't be too pleased if I was a Sharks fan here today. It feels like they could have got a little bit more. And when you compare that trade to this one, as we move on to Tanner Jeannot, it's like, wait, what? If 5 picks here from our guy, Frank Cervelli. Tanner Jeannot brings back a Whopper. We're going to play the commercial. BK Whopper, that's for you, George and Quan. Look at this. Cal Foote, a 2025 first-round pick, top 10. Not going to be top. It's top 10. The Lightning are not going to be a bottom 10 team in the league anytime soon. A 2024 second, a 2023 third, a 2023 fourth, and a 2023 fifth. 5 picks for Tanner Jeannot. I hear the noise. Frank said it himself that there were some GMs and executive across the league that were absolutely floored with this pick. One thing I will say first before getting into Tanner Jeannot is that I don't think you can count like the Tampa Bay Lightning out at any moment. I don't think you can judge any of their trades. A couple years ago, they traded a first-round pick for Blake Coleman, who had a career-high 36 points. Blake Coleman, everybody laughed at it. What are you doing? First-round pick, yada, yada. What happened? Tampa won the cup. Tampa also traded a couple years ago a first-round pick for Barclay Goodrow, who is a third-line player at best. At best. What Tampa do? They went on and won the cup. These picks don't matter to Tampa. Honestly, they don't even have any anyways. This year's draft, they don't have a first, a second, a third, a fourth, or a fifth. They don't pick into the sixth. They got 2 in the 7th. In 2024, they don't have a first or a second. In 2025, they don't have a first. As you see, they traded the first. They don't have a first until 2026. It doesn't matter. My thinking here is, yes, this is a lot to get Tanner Jeannot. Tanner Jeannot has 5 goals and 14 points in 56 games. Last year as a rookie in 81 games, he had 24 goals and 41 points. He had an unsustainable high shooting percentage at 19.4. League average is around 9-10. So a little bit lucky last year, maybe a little bit unlucky this year as his shooting percentage is at 5. Looking into his 5-5 numbers, like maybe I would say that he's been unlucky. For one, the shooting percentage. 2, he's got the same amount of high danger chances as Philip Forsberg, who we all know is elite. And I'm not comparing the two, but he doesn't also get the same type of 5-5 minutes or playing time overall in general as Forsberg. Same amount of high danger chances. He was second on the team in expected goals at 5-5. His 5-5 numbers are not bad. The Lightning didn't acquire him to score goals. Yes, it would be nice, of course, but they're already loaded inside the top 6. I think people are underestimating how important a bottom 6 is to make a Stanley Cup run and to win cups. The Lightning have been to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 straight seasons. Now they have take away Vladislav Nemestikov and put in Tanner Jeannot on that third line with Nick Paul. Tampa is loaded. They were aggressive, clearly. Frank said that originally, Nashville was looking for 2 firsts from Tampa. When I look at these picks, and it does seem like a lot for 5 picks for Tanner Jeannot, and I get it. The 5 goals and 14 points, it's all anybody's talking about. And last year's high shooting percentage, but he does a lot of things well. I mean, he's aggressive on the forecheck. He throws his body around. He can clearly score goals. He scored 24 as a rookie, whether that's unsustainable or not. He did score 24 goals. It's saying something. And it just adds to what is already a well-rounded hockey team. So when I look at these picks again, yeah, the firsts, Nashville did really good here, by the way. I think the Preds did good getting all these picks, and David Boyle announced yesterday he's going to retire at the end of this season, and Barry Trotz's going to take over at GM. Preds should have really been selling for a couple of years now. Boyle's out the door, and he leaves them with a handful of picks. But when I look at this second, it's basically a third. When I look at the third, it's basically a fourth, and the fourth and the fifth really don't – I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, right? Fourth and a fifth, and the way that Tampa is going to finish over these next couple seasons, those picks, like the fourth is basically a fifth, and the fifth is basically a sixth. But that trade was pretty shocking, not going to lie, right? When you see a guy like that, a bottom 6 player who's just going to play about 13, 14, 15 minutes a night throughout the playoffs to garner 5 picks plus Cal Foote. Pretty interesting nonetheless. But again, you can't judge Tampa. They know what's going on. Brisebois knows what's going on. He always wins these deals. And the Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow trades worked out perfectly. I thought, especially in their second cup run, I thought that was Tampa's best line at 5-5. I didn't know Kucherov and Point and Stamkos. I didn't know that, but Yanni Gourde and Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman, that line was just fantastic. And I know the Canadians weren't a team that could really match up with anyone, despite them getting to the finals in that bubble run. But every time Yanni Gourde and Blake Coleman, and every time that line touched the ice, they just excelled. They were just dominant, and that's really how you get it done in the playoffs. Like, you got to have your top 6 rolling, but you need all 4 lines. You definitely need a bottom 6. You need strong special teams. Jeannot's going to kill some penalties, most likely. And, the bottom 6 is going to be tough to play against. And that's a big win for the Bolts, despite giving up a lot of picks. And you know what? If they win a cup this year, none of it matters. They're not going to care one bit about the picks. Do you think that the Rams care that they don't have any first-round picks over the next couple of years? They don't care. They want a championship. Would you, if you were the owner or a GM of a team and an organization, would you forfeit your next 5 first-round picks to win a championship, to win a Super Bowl, to win a Stanley Cup, to win a World Series, to win an NBA championship? Would you do it? I mean, I know that I would. I would do it. I'd have no issue at all. Max Kleba supposed to return tomorrow. Look at this guy, Daily Handle, give me Dallas Mavericks insight. That was a tough loss for the Mavs last night. They had a 27-point lead against the Lakers. The Luka and Kyrie experiment. It's only been 4 games they played together, but they're 1-3, and the one win that they had came against the Spurs, and they're atrocious. They put up like 144 points. That was a tough loss last night by the Mavs. I still don't know if they're any worse or they're any better. Like, it's just, I still think it was worth the shot of acquiring Kyrie because they weren't winning anything anyways with the roster that they had. So, yeah. Kyrie point emoji. We'll see what happens moving forward here. Interesting trades. We're going to keep the NHL talk going. I'm going to take a look at week 20 of the fantasy hockey season. We still have some NHL picks and some props to get to as well on Mean Streets. So we'll be back in a couple. Hang tight.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win.
Welcome back in. Let's take a look at the Week 20 Fantasy Hockey Waiver Wire. The article is live over at ftnfantasy.com, and these are the teams that are playing 4 games this week. Of course, Detroit is playing 5 games this week. Today, tomorrow, they got the back-to-back with the Ottawa Senators, and then they play, I believe, on Thursday and Saturday and Sunday. So it is nice to get a guy like potentially Robbie Fabry, but again, it's easy to fit him into your lineup on Monday and Sunday, but can you get him in on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday with a jam-packed schedule? Your league's probably going to have to be pretty deep. But Fabry's on a pretty good run. The only team I didn't list here that plays 4 games this week are the Edmonton Oilers. There's just nothing to stream. Their top 6 is loaded. This is the issue with the Edmonton Oilers when we're comparing with the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Tampa Bay Lightning have a fantastic bottom 6. Now, the fact that they play in Florida and Tampa with the state tax, they got these, some of their guys, let's be honest, Braden Point and Steven Stamkos and Kucherov and Victor Hedman, even Vasilevsky, these guys would get paid way more elsewhere. But, they get a little bit of a hometown discount, and they're able to have a loaded bottom 6. The Edmonton Oilers got 4 points the other night from Connor McDavid, and they lost to the worst team in hockey in the Columbus Blue Jackets. Why? Well, their goaltending stinks for one, and their bottom 6 is atrocious. So that's why Edmonton's not listed here. There's nobody on the team to stream. That's it. That's what it's all about. But for Robbie Fabry here, 5 games this week. Fabry has been held off the score sheet in each of his last 3 games, but he's had a 5-game point streak before that. He had 3 goals, 10 points, 6 power play points. He's on that first power play, which I think is key. He's not a big volume shooter, and most of those games where he had goals, he only really had 1 shot. So, but he is a guy that can help you out in deeper formats. Shane Gostisbehere, there's really not much here from Arizona. I do like Barrett Hayton. I do like Nick Schmaltz. Clayton Keller's a guy that should be rostered. We're going to see a trade, I think, eventually from Jacob Chikrin. Really hard to hold Jacob Chikrin, right? Because he's been on, he hasn't played in weeks. And he's just like, if you have no IR plus, then what are you doing? He's just kind of hanging on your bench but trade deadline's this week. So I'd imagine he gets traded soon. Valimaki is a guy that can, give you some blocks as well. Nick Bukestad can help you out in the league with faceoffs and hits, and Jake McMahon can help you out with a few faceoffs and some blocks and things like that. Actually, just blocks and hits. But for Shane Gostisbehere, I think he hit the score sheet last night, and he's just played 3 games here. He's going to get all the ice time that he can handle over the next, month and a half or so with Chikrin out the door. So as long as you're not in a plus-minus league, also don't play in plus-minus leagues. He's going to, rack up a lot of shots for you. He had 7 shots in the first 2 games since returning to the lineup. David Krejci just remains a mystery. His ownership has been in the mid-30s all year long. He's not a big volume shooter. 4 points over a current 3-game point streak. Gets a couple assists per week because who he plays with? David Pastrnak, and David Pastrnak scores a goal every other day. So David Krejci's in on most of those goals, so he can help you out with some assists. Chicago, we could see Max Domi get traded. More on Max Domi in the next block here, but Domi is having a fantastic season. He's got 4 goals and 12 points over a current 6-game point streak, 1 goal, 8 shots, and 8 faceoff wins in his last game when he played a season high 22 minutes. And he's going to continue to get a lot of ice time as well. I think he is going to get traded, and Patrick Kane's probably that next. We still have a couple big names left. Like Kane is not with the Blackhawks. He's not going to play with Chicago tonight against the Ducks. Most likely going to get traded, and Kane could be out the door as well. Chicago has made it known that they want to do everything that they can to try to get Connor Bedard because they've just been trading all of their good players away for the past couple of seasons. And I wouldn't be shocked if Domi was out the door. But great matchup tonight. A lot of ice time, shooting a puck can help you with some faceoffs. And, he takes a lot of stupid penalties. So if you're playing in a league with penalties, you could maybe rack up a few there. Jake McCabe is just a guy who's going to help you out with hits and blocks. JT Compher's really been turning it up lately. He's on that second line with Mikko Rantanen, and the Avs have that real nice schedule. They play today, they play Wednesday, and they have a game on Sunday as well as the game on Saturday. He can rack up some faceoffs. I think he's got over 40 faceoffs won over his last 3 games. He's logging heavy minutes. He's got 2 goals and 8 points over his last 4 contests. Now, there's a couple of deep league guys here. Evgeny Dadonov is a deep league guy, not an immediate pickup, and Barbashev's another guy. So there were a couple other trades over the weekend. The Habs, I thought, did pretty well here, getting Denis Gurianov, a 25-year-old from Dallas who's been very inconsistent, but they gave away Dadonov, who is not part of the long-term future. The Habs are rebuilding. He's 33 years old. He can add a little bit more firepower offensively to Dallas than Gurianov did. But I thought Kent Hughes for the Canadiens did a pretty good job. Ended up turning Shea Weber's contract into Denis Gurianov. It's worth a shot. He's an RFA. He's not going to cost a whole lot. And as I mentioned, Dadonov's 33 and just really hasn't done a whole lot. But Dallas needs some offense apart from their first line. And I would expect Dadonov to play with Tyler Seguin. So keep an eye on him to see where he suits up. A good matchup tonight against the Canucks, Wednesday against Arizona, Thursday against Chicago. So some really good games for him. Michael Matheson and Josh Anderson. Matheson has been very impressive for me. He's got points in 4 straight games, 9 over his last 9 games. Productive when healthy. He's had some issues staying healthy this year, but when he's healthy, he's logging a lot of ice time. He played 27-27 the other night against the Devils and 24-47 on Saturday against the Ottawa Senators. He has 11 shots in his last 2 games on the top power play. Him and Nick Suzuki are the only Habs that would play with confidence. And then Josh Anderson's there in small writing because he's not a great pickup. But he is getting a lot of ice time as well, as the Habs have the most man games lost. They're trading some of their pieces away. He's on that top line, first power play with Nick Suzuki, and he's a guy that we've been talking about a lot when it comes to shot props over 2.5. Nothing really for the Senators. All the guys that you want are owned, right, in their top 6. Drake Batherson on their third line, moving up and down the lineup here and there. They're all owned. Travis Hamonic can provide some hits and blocks. Seattle, just basically everybody's available. Vince Dunn has the highest ownership. Matty Beniers went through a cold stretch, and now he's feeling it again. I think he's turned the corner. 2 goals and 6 points over his last 4 games. And then Jordan Eberle on that line as well. There's a lot of streaming options for the Kraken. The schedule's not bad. You got Seattle, Detroit, and Columbus before wrapping up Sunday against Colorado, which will be a tougher matchup. Anthony Cirelli as I felt like he's turned the corner as well. It was a slow start when he got back in the lineup. Of course, he was recovering from off-season surgery, and he missed the first couple months of the season, but he touches a lot of categories, including face-off wins if you're playing in that type of format. 5 goals, 8 points over his last 8 games. I mentioned Barbashev. He's a guy that, can provide some grit. I think he had 8 hits in a game last week. And I would expect him, honestly, to play with Jack Eichel. And now they can move their lines around, of course, but I think we'll find out tonight against Colorado, Wednesday, Carolina, Friday, New Jersey, and then Sunday, Montreal. I think Barbashev's going to play with Jonathan Marchessault and Jack Eichel. I think they're going to continue, with Carlson and Riley Smith on that second line, and then to balance out their lines, Chandler Stevenson and Phil Kessel on that third line. We'll see what they do, but Barbashev could be a sneaky ad. And I love the Vegas Golden Knights schedule this week. They're the only team in the NHL that plays Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And as I talked earlier off the top of the show, I think that's very important to attack the schedule, get the most out of your ads, more man games, and then maybe drop a guy that's not going to get into your lineup on a Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. And then you have guys that are going to get in on the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So, for example, if you drop 2 guys that are not going to get in on the Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and you pick up Barbashev and you pick up Braden McNabb for hits and blocks, it's 8 more games that you're going to get. You're going to be able to pile up some points, whether you're in a head-to-head format or a rotisserie format. You're going to get the most out of your moves. And then a couple guys in the bottom that I wanted to give a little bit of love to that don't have 4 games, but Seth Jarvis is absolutely feeling it. I know we've touched on him a couple times over the past, couple of episodes. He's had at least 3 shots in 10 straight games. Actually, I think it's 8 straight games. He had a hat trick the other night. He's been really good on that top line for Carolina. Mercer, how about Mercer? And there are some rumors that New Jersey offered Mercer to San Jose, and I think that's just, they can't buy those rumors, because how could you not want Dawson Mercer? Are you kidding me? The guy's got 8 goals, over a current 6-game goal streak. And yeah, he's hot right now, but he's a nice young player who's just going to be a really good player in the league. Grab him now if it's not too late. Ownership is 37%. And then Mikael Backlund in a league with face-off wins and special teams points. That's including power play and shorthanded points. Mikael Backlund, believe it or not, over the last 30 days is a top 25 fantasy hockey player. He's got 5 goals, 7 points. He's got 4 special teams points, 1 shorthanded point, 3 power play points. He's on that top power play. He's been a shot. Oh my goodness. Bats. He's been a shot prop darling for us for quite some time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight games. He's cleared 2.5. And over his last 6 games, he's had at least 4 shots. I've said crazier things before on air. This is live television. I worked at a classic radio station back in the day. Shout out to 89.3 K-Rock, the Valley's classic rock. And we were doing like cash clock giveaways. Say that 5 times fast, and I guarantee you one of those words that will not be clock. It won't be. Shop prop. Here we go. Speaking of them, got some for you next on Mean Streets. Back in a couple.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win.
Welcome back in. A handful of games on the ice tonight in the NHL. There were a couple different ways I wanted to go with this first pick. It was Max Domi early on, but then his odds changed, absolutely just changed quickly. FTN Alerts is a great Twitter handle to follow. I see some new subs with the $1 hoops promo code that we have. I see some new subs hanging out in the Discord channel, asking some questions. Very active in the Discord channel through all the sports, because when you have the FTN betting package, you have all the picks across all sports, tools, projections, Discord channel. We have them all. Like, I have a sport for hockey, baseball, football, golf, esports. Like, it's just, we have college, all the college different sports. It's all there for you. But yeah, FTN Alerts, if you follow them on Twitter, you get notified right away when we make a pick. So I'll talk about the Max Domi thing in a little bit. But there is one guy that I do have my eye on here tonight, and it's Patrice Bergeron of the Boston Bruins. Now, for him to pick up a point, it's a little bit juice, but I don't mind drinking this juice here. Minus 135 against the Edmonton Oilers. This Oilers team is just, I mean, again, we talked about it. The bottom 6, it's atrocious. They can't get any goaltending. They played the Blue Jackets the other night. They gave up 6 goals. They've allowed 5+ goals in 4 of their last 6 games, and we know how good this Boston Bruins squad is. Patrice Bergeron has 6 points in his last 5 games, playing on up at that top line First power play, of course. He's great defensively, but he can still bring it offensively. Jake DeBrusk has been fantastic all season long when he's in the lineup, and Brad Marchand as well. So that trio I really like a lot. Plus 240 over at Bet365, all of them to hit the score sheet in the same game parlay. But I got Patrice Bergeron 2-unit play for 1 point. And a 1-unit play for an assist. He's got an assist in each of his last 2 games. He's got 3 apples over his last 4 games as well. And this is all about the Edmonton Oilers not being able to keep the puck out of their net. They just can't get the goaltending. How does Connor McDavid get 4 or 5 points every night and this team still loses games? It's crazy to me. They got to figure it out immediately. I think we're going to see some massive changes in Edmonton. The Jack Campbell signing, that doesn't look good at all. And I don't know who's going to get the start, but it really doesn't matter. I think the Bruins will pepper whoever is in net. And I like Boston on the money line. I got them in the tracker at -137 over at Bet Rivers. These 2 props here from DraftKings. A couple other plays that I like here tonight. I mentioned the same game parlay there. Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak plus 240 at Bet365. So Max Domi has changed quite a bit here. I think somebody mentioned to me in the Discord channel, Cool Bet, for the Canadians out there. I think it was minus maybe 128 for a point for Bergeron, and better odds here for Max Domi to pick up 3 shots. So these odds, oh my goodness, wow. In a matter of an hour, it has moved from -135 at FanDuel to -165 at FanDuel and -175 at DraftKings. That's crazy. We can't get behind that. PrizePicks is offering 2.5. Maybe you can put it into a parlay over at DraftKings, put Max Domi at 2.5 and Jake DeBrusk, who's also a little bit juiced at -145 at 2.5. But we touched on Max Domi in just the last block, right? He's just having a really good season. No Kane, getting a lot of ice time, all the ice time that he can handle. 22 minutes in his last game, which is a season high for him. 8 shots in his last game. He's cleared 2.5 in 3 of his last 4, and he's been stuck on 2 in the other games that he hasn't. I mean, he's touching a lot of categories for you, winning faceoffs, not really, contributing in the hitting department, but getting some power play points, 2 PP points over his last couple games. And he's riding, like I mentioned in the last block, a 6-game point streak. He had 3 points and 2 goals against the Stars the other night. He had a 4-point night against the Maple Leafs, which he had a goal and 3 assists. He's plus 105 to pick up assists against the Anaheim Ducks. The Ducks are the worst team in hockey. Them and the Blue Jackets. I think the Ducks are. I think the Ducks are a much worse team than the Columbus Blue Jackets, even though they'll get Troy Terry back here tonight. Over the last 2 months, they're number 1 shot attempts allowed, shots allowed, high danger chances, scoring chances, expected goals, goals against. Like if they didn't have John Gibson between the pipe, this team would lose 8-1 every night. Gibson's fantastic. The dude makes like 45 saves every single night. Man, that guy sees more rubber than, I don't know, a trucker in Joyride movie on the road all night. That wasn't very good, but we'll take it. Nathan McKinnon, David Pasternak, 4.5. Pasta, Mean Streets. Can't jinx him. George says can't jinx him. Can't do it. David Pasternak over 4.5 shots and Nathan McKinnon over 4.5 shots. Surprisingly, the Golden Knights, a stingy team offensively or defensively, rather. This is a team that's given up some rubber over the last 4 weeks. I'll take McKinnon any day against any team, and it's a good price. And same thing with David Pasternak here at 4.5. So both of those guys. Also, Brady Tkachuk at 3.5. I was thinking about which Red Wing I could ride. I think Tim Stützle for the Senators is also in play. Over the last 2 months, 5 and 5 per 60. Our friends over at Natural Stat Trick, the Detroit Red Wings are near the top in shots allowed. Both teams here. This should be a really good game tonight between the Senators and the Red Wings, but both of these teams are giving up some rubber. Detroit's playing really, really good hockey, but I do like Brady Tkachuk over 3.5. Roope Hintz as well. Roope Hintz he's had some quiet games for us over the past week or so, but this is a guy that I usually jump on when I see 2.5, and he had 8 shots in his last game against Vegas. I mentioned the Golden Knights giving up some rubber. He only had 1 against the Blackhawks and 0 against Columbus, which is pretty surprising, but overall, he has cleared in 3 of his past 5, and he had 3 against the Wild, tough team, to generate offense against, especially in Minnesota. And then the Bruins, he had 4 shots as well. So I'm taking this. I like the matchup against Vancouver. I think that top line will have some success, and I think maybe Tyler Seguin or Dadonov are pretty sneaky in terms of hitting the score sheet. So that's it for now. I just want to reference like FTN alerts again. You get notified right away. You get that pick. And you see, I have in the bet tracker Domi at -135, but it's really tough to get behind that 165. Another play that I have in the tracker would be the Avs on the money line, -135. They're really feeling it at the moment. They are absolutely cruising, and they're going to get that. They're going to get that division. John Gibson save props if he starts. Myron Kidd in the house. Yeah, it's a really good question. In fact, I was looking at it earlier, and there was nothing there. I still don't see anything. Do you see anything, Myron? My one issue with Gibson save props is that Chicago is not a really good team, so he may not see a lot of rubber tonight. But I will say that the rest of the season, John Gibson save props are absolutely in play. Let's just, we got a minute here. Let me just take a look for the people, the peeps. John Gibson. Listen to the saves that he's made over the past 51 in his last game against the Hurricanes, 41 against Washington, 51 against Florida, 35 against LA, 32 against Vegas. He allowed 7 goals. 53 against the Golden Knights. Oh, man. 32 against the Golden Knights. Sorry, he allowed 7 goals. And 53 against Pittsburgh. He allowed 6 goals. Like, this guy's allowing 5 or 6 goals every other night, but he's seeing 50 plus shots. I'd say I would take anything over 28.5. But again, maybe tonight is not the night because it's the Blackhawks. But every other night, and you're never going to see it 35. You just books are never, because people will hammer the under. But he is clearing that easily clearing his save prop every single night. Man, the guy has made 50 plus saves in 3 of his last 5 starts, and those other 2, 35 and 41. So I feel you, Myron. I feel where you're at. Maybe not tonight, but we'll see. If it's 28.5, we'll probably get behind it. The Ducks are atrocious. They're so bad. Oh my goodness. All right. Gibson has been a gold mine for DFS too. Yeah, absolutely. And I think people get kind of caught up in chasing wins in DFS. I'm going to have the article over at FTN Daily after this show. Gibson's been 6'9". I played him against the Hurricanes the other night. He was 6'9". He made 51 saves. It's all about saves in NHL DFS. He may not get the win from some of these goalies. He's not rattling off a lot of wins, although he does have wins in back-to-back starts against Washington and Carolina. But you want a goalie that's going to get you that save bonus, 35 plus saves. You're going to get that save bonus. So if he allows 2 or 3 goals, it's not going to be the end of the world. But Gibson getting 40, 50 saves. He's been a big part of a lot of success that we've had over at ftndaily.com. All right, we're going to turn the page and talk a little baseball here on Mean Streets. Hang tight. Welcome back in. Going to do a couple baseball. I'll do round 4 and round 5 here in this block. I got a quote there from the Lightning GM that I wanted to share with you guys as well, because everybody's freaking out about these picks, and they're just like, no, you're not looking at the big picture here, guys. Again, the Bulls back to back to back cup appearances. I think they know what they're doing. Oh man. All right. I was gonna call somebody out, but I'm not gonna be that person. I'm not gonna be that person. Okay. But some people out there think that Tampa Bay's team is actually worse now. But that's it. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay, round four. Round four. Here we go. NFBC high stakes leagues. Last 4 weeks. What do we got here? Do you have it, Quan? Giddy up. Oh, round five. Okay, we'll do round five. It's all good. Okay, so Cedric Mullins, first pick on average over the last 6 weeks. NFBC, high stakes leagues, people putting their hard-earned bucks on the line. So we get a really good feel of where some of these players are going. Now, ADP isn't everything. We have our fantasy baseball draft kit, everything that you want to prepare you for a fantasy baseball draft. It's all there over at ftnfantasy.com. Cedric Mullins, outfielder, Baltimore Orioles, first Oriole off the board, pick 49 on average. Kyle Schwarber going to give you some pop. Philadelphia Phillies, great lineup on average, pick number 50. Will Smith, I think this is the second catcher off the board. I think JT Realmuto was in the third round. Will Smith, Dodgers. Adolis Garcia, outfielder, Texas. Corey Seager, so back-to-back Rangers here, pick 53. 57 really on average. Zach Wheeler for the Philadelphia Phillies. And something we addressed when we went through the draft, the live underdog best ball draft, and I was walking through my strategy. I was talking about grabbing bats in the first couple rounds, get yourself an outfielder in the first couple rounds because it dries up quick. In these formats, you need 5 outfielders, so you're going to really want to attack the outfield position. You're starting to see and this is where I want to attack pitching. I want to get one maybe in the 4th, 5th, and 6th, maybe 2 in those 3 rounds, and you're seeing like a pitcher run here. Zach Wheeler, Julio Urias, Shane Bieber, Jordan Romano is a closer, Luis Castillo and Kevin Gossman, Adley Rutschman there, who's like just already a veteran catcher, man. Like he's going to be an absolute stud in the league, but still not addressing the catcher position this early. For those that play Yahoo and ESPN, you only have to roster one catcher. Why do it until like the 12th, 13th, 14th round? In this format, you need 2 catchers, so I understand it, but it's still not for me. Like, I'm not taking Will Smith over any of these guys. The guy that I really like from here, and there are a couple that I like. I will say Schwarber I like. I don't mind Wheeler, Urias. I like Bieber. Romano is a really good closer. I don't mind that as well. But Luis Castillo, I want Luis Castillo. Rutschman's definitely a top 5 catcher. There's no question. He's been in the league for a minute. He's already top 5 on average, and fantasy's going third. Luis Castillo. We have a board here for Luis Castillo and some of his numbers from last season and the splits in Cincinnati and in Seattle. So you see the numbers on the left: 150 innings pitched, 167 strikeouts, and 45 walks. He had a 10K per 9, 2.68 walks per 9, a 2.99 ERA, and an xFIP of 3.23, 8-6 overall. And he is the 17th starting pitcher off the board in NFBC over the last 2 months. I have him ranked as a top 15 pitcher. And you see the numbers on the bottom right, his numbers in Seattle: 65 and a third, 4-2, a 3.17 ERA. How about the strikeouts? The strikeouts went up. Now, I don't know if there's anything to this, but 77 strikeouts in 65 innings. He was just basically a strikeout per inning guy in Cincinnati and a little bit more in Seattle. But I like everything that he has to offer. The ground ball rate wasn't where it usually is, and I think he is, for the most part, a ground ball pitcher. I like his ballpark. I like, the division that he plays in, is tough for sure. But there's a lot of just pitcher friendly ballparks inside that division. And I know that some of the rule changes, also schedule changes this year. You're not going to play as many teams inside your division as in years past. But Luis Castillo is, I think, a very, very, very strong target. And the Mariners have a lot of pitchers to offer in fantasy. Robbie Ray, Kirby. They got guys left, right, and center that you can draft, and I like all of them, in fact. But Luis Castillo, I think, is a very, very strong target. I'd feel better if he was my second pitcher. If he is your first pitcher, you're going to have to target pitchers again. And I know that in round 6, one of my favorite pitchers as well is Christian Javier. So I've been starting a lot of my drafts with Castillo and Javier as my 1 and 2. And I like those starts to my drafts. We're going to break, and we do have round 4. So we'll go backwards, and we'll take a look at round 4 in the final block here on Main Street. So we'll be back in a couple.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN data.
Quan, we'll save round 4 for tomorrow. I want to read this quote to you guys from Julien Brisebois, who is the GM of Tampa. So he says, at the end of the day, I know there's a perceived value of those picks, but we have a really good idea of what the actual value of those picks are. Individually, you can go, quote, what's the first round pick worth? What's the second round pick worth? And so forth and so on. When we look at what that's worth to us based on the odds of those picks turning into good NHL players down the road, I'd rather have the good player right now for this season and next and help this group win right now, because I know what the odds are of those picks turning into good players. I also know what the odds are of those picks turning into good players that can help us win while we have this group of players right now in their prime, ready to go for another long run. The odds of that are zero. None of those picks were going to help. None of those players we're going to draft with those picks are going to help us win this year or next year or probably the year after that. So when you put into that context and you frame it that way, it ends up being a really pretty easy decision, actually. And you know what? I couldn't agree more. The window is now. Get the cups. What are those picks? Those picks don't mean anything, and they're late picks anyways. Good on the Preds to get those players. I think they did a good job. But Tanner Jeannot he's a good player, guys. He really is. He may not score 20 goals, but he does a lot of good things really well. And as he mentioned in that quote, going to be able to lock him up in the future. It's not just a rental. You're going to have this guy for a couple of years as well. Listen, the Bolts, they get it done. They really do. We kind of get it done here too, don't we? I don't know. Let you guys be the judge of that. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good night. Cheers.